and welcome to Around the Verse, our weekly look at the development of Star Citizen. I'm Sandy Gardner, and here with me is Game Director Chris Roberts.
Hi Sandy, great to be here. So if you've been reading the newsletter, you know it's been a busy time for our community team, having just experienced GDC last week. Then immediately heading into PAX East this week, and following that we'll be at South by Southwest. It's wonderful for CIG to be on the ground so much recently, interacting with different developers in the case of GDC and fans in PAX East and South by Southwest.
To celebrate PAX East, we're holding another free fly sale this weekend where you can fly the Aegis Saber around the universe. So if you've been wondering what the Star Citizen buzz is all about, now is your chance to find out.
Yes, there you go. So the Saber's a magnificent fighter. It quickly establishes dominance in combat with 6 guns on its wings, including 2 laser cannons and 2 paraburst scatter guns. So what better way to celebrate PAX East than to blow some people up in space combat?
Yay. And while we're on the topic of gaming conventions, our lead community manager, Tyler Whitkin, recorded his experience at GDC last week, which we've included here in this special GDC Look Back.
Good morning, everyone. It is almost 4:30 in the morning. We just arrived at the airport in Austin, Texas, and we are about to leave town, heading to San Francisco for GDC 2017.
It's gonna be an exciting time. We'll see you there.
Hello there. This is the last day of GDC San Francisco 2017. We've had an absolutely incredible time. We've met so many people, from students to developers from around the world to backers and supporters of Star Citizen. It was amazing. The booth was great. Partnered with Amazon and Lumberyard, Star Citizen. It was just a full house all 3 days on the show floor, and we couldn't be happier. And so with this, we are done. We are signing out. Lead Community Manager Tyler Whitkin here, and we will see you in the verse.
Thanks for that inside look, Tyler, and we look forward to hearing about your time at PAX East this week.
We do, and in today's episode, we'll take a look at how weapons are concepted and developed through all aspects of production. But before we dive into weapon creation, let's go to our studio update. As Chris mentioned in last week's episode, our studio updates now give a more detailed look into what various departments at each studio have done in the past month. This way, we can provide you with a comprehensive report on the progress of Star Citizen. So let's go to the Austin studio and see what they've been up to.
Hey guys, Jake Ross here, producer for CIG Austin. Let's take a look at what's been going on this month in the Austin studio. One of our big focuses this month is to get the first pass of implementation of trade into the game. So Austin design team has been designing the next round of shops that will be available after the upcoming 2.6.2 patch. A few things that are required to make this happen are the initial list of commodities, the locations in which you buy and sell them, and a variable economy to provide the player with options of places to sell their commodities. Our goal in Star Citizen is to have a functioning, fluctuating economy that mirrors the real world in as many ways as possible. This economy will include goods flowing from their mined or gathered states, then onto the refineries, passing through manufacturers, and ultimately turning into buyable or tradable items. The price of these items will be an important element of gameplay because players' actions can impact the flow of resources, which will in turn affect supply and demand. For example, if trade lanes get disrupted between the various production sites due to player interference or something else similar, this will change both the prices they're willing to pay for goods, as well as the quantity of goods they have available. Since we're still in the early stages, we began with a basic commodity structure that represents the major groups: ore, gas, food, medical supplies, and vice, things like drugs or other illegal items. That way, players can get an idea of which resource types will be fought over within the Star Citizen universe. Once the system is proven out with a small subset, commodities will evolve and expand and grow into more specific things like gold, hydrogen, rations, bandages, etc., etc., etc. We want to ensure it's a fun experience by getting the core economic structure in place and testing it out before getting bogged down with the complexity of specifics. Next, we obviously need places to purchase and offload this cargo once you buy it and refine it and manufacture it. For the next major release, we are adding a new station type called the truck stop, which is being worked on by the Frankfurt design team. We figured that all stations have the need for a certain level of resources in order to sustain their existence and thought that it was a little weird to sell your resources directly to the shops themselves. So we created a new shop type called the admin office, which will most notably focus on buying and selling station imports and exports for the local stores on the stage. This shop would also control local storage rentals and include a job board to complete and plan deliveries. This shop type will be in the majority of the locations that don't have a fully fleshed out TDD, which is focused more on things like commodity trading. Ultimately, the prices of commodities will vary by supply and demand based on the dynamic economy. But as a first iteration, commodity prices will probably stay within the range of their base prices and likely will be set by hand. Basically, we need to test buying and selling around the universe before we upgrade to a variable rate. This will allow us to answer questions like, how fun is it to actually find cargo from a derelict spaceship? How fun is it to steal things from other players or from some unsuspecting NPC on a planetary outpost? How much is a reasonable reward when you run across them in these scenarios? What type of profit margins are going to make this compelling? We look forward to getting these elements into the game once we have answers to the questions like these. On the art side of things, the lighting team has been doing both initial lighting passes and polish passes for some of the locations you'll see in the Squadron 42. The team is also going back to some older content like the Retaliator and Constellation and doing some general optimizations and polish work. These changes include fixing the infamous strobe lighting bug in the Retaliator cockpit, as well as improving performance inside these specific ships. The ship art team is currently in the gray box phase of the shipbuilding process for the Drake Cutlass Black. As shown in part 1 of the ship pipeline video, the gray box phase means the basic geometry of the ship has been built and the smart normals and UVs are completed. Now the team is concentrating on adding primary and secondary detail with the geometry and material work. The interior of the Drake Cutlass Black has also gotten a lot of attention this month in the form of added detail and kit bash pieces from the Caterpillar. The team also completed a first lighting pass for the interior of the Cutlass. The Austin ship animation team has been working with the UK and the LA studios to bring you some new badass ships. We just wrapped up the gray box phase of our mining ship, the Misk Prospector, with the UK team. In Austin, we're working on a new redesigned Drake Cutlass as previously discussed, and we're supporting them as well. And lastly, we're finalizing all the Drake Buccaneer animations. All the ships will be completed, online, and available before you know it. Over the past month, the PU animation team continues to create animations so our NPC characters can interact with the environment. One of these animations includes replacing the rough, retargeted animations on the female with properly shot animations of female performance. We have also made headway in debugging issues with our animation, skeletons, and our animation pipeline in general. With the help of code and design, we also started researching better ways to implement the hundreds of animations we've developed over the years. We began with the mess hall table that's located in the Idris, with the goal of creating an entire eating experience for a character, and specifically for NPCs. It starts with a character grabbing a tray, navigating to a table seat, then the character sitting down, eating, drinking, and performing any other actions. Finally, the character will stand with the tray in hand and navigate to the tray disposal. We then provide these animations to the Frankfurt studio, and they take it over from there. You may have seen a little bit of this in the Frankfurt update from last week's Around the Verse. The global connection between each studio is key to getting our work done properly. The server engineering team has been supporting both live and the upcoming 2.6.2 patch. We have introduced and continue to enhance multi-region support for matchmaking, and there have been multiple fixes and tweaks to both the party system, contacts, and friends, which includes improvements to invitations and online and offline state notifications. We have directed much of our energy towards the new diffusion architecture refactor for the backend services. Diffusion allows us to easily create stateless microservices using the combination of C++ and the proprietary Ooze scripting language. By combining these two languages, we can create highly scalable and high-performing stateless services. In other words, we can support a higher number of concurrent players with improved stability and less downtime. All of the current backend services have been updated to run on the Diffusion core, which allows us to continue to refactor and rewrite services for Diffusion without impacting current service operations. Finally, we have finished the new Diffusion API Gateway, which allows Spectrum and other external services to seamlessly integrate with the Diffusion network. The player relations team spent the month traveling to the various studios, Founder 42 in Manchester and Turbulent in Montreal. Much of the trip was spent working with various design teams and stakeholders on ways to better collect and distribute specific feedback. This feedback can then be used during Avocati and PTU waves during testing. Player relations was heavily involved in testing, setting up and launching both 261 and Spectrum. It was fantastic to see players jump right into Spectrum. We've gotten great feedback on how to improve it, and we're very proud that players love Spectrum so much. Last but not least, we've been growing the player relations team in Austin. The team has open positions right now, and they have been interviewing some awesome candidates, all of which are part of the Star Citizen community. If you're interested in joining the team in Austin, check out our website and our jobs page at cloudimperiumgames.com/jobs. Thanks guys for watching and for all your support. We'll see you in the verse.
Thanks for the update, Jake. It's great to see the level of detail each department strives for so they can create a realistic universe within Star Citizen. From the animation team creating anthropomorphic movements so NPCs can flawlessly complete the smallest of tasks, to the design team developing an intricate commodity structure that will fluctuate at a variable rate based on supply and demand.
I couldn't agree more. It'll be interesting to see how a player's actions will affect the universe based on what they buy, sell, or if they choose to steal. Next, we'll hear from Turbulent on the updates they've made to our chat and forum platform, Spectrum.
Hi guys, I'm Benoit from Turbulent, and here's an update on the production of the platform called Spectrum that you guys have seen released last week. And so we've been super busy cataloging your feedback, looking at all the different bugs that you guys have been reporting. The feedback has been tremendous. We cannot be more happy than seeing you guys react to what we've put out. There's been a lot of people jumping on. We've seen organizations being created, and all this activity is creating this momentum that we really hope for in how we designed the Spectrum platform to begin with. And so my team has been looking a lot at the different issue council issues that you guys have reported. We've classified the feedback and we've identified a bunch of short-term additions that we're going to be doing, as well as realign a bit the long-term vision of how the platform is going to shape up with your feedback in mind. And that's all because you guys are reporting this directly to us and talking to us about how the platform is being built. And so some of the releases that we've done since we launched, there have been 2 of them, have brought some of your feedback and top priority directly on the platform. And so what we've added is more readability on the thread list, where we've upped the font size, made secondary information a bit more faded. We've also brought in more of your feedback into how the sort algorithms are working. Our initial launch of the sort algorithms were a bit weird, and so we've readjusted them from the top. We're currently working on reaching feature parity for the form engine of Spectrum with the previous form engine. And so we're looking at what we're missing, and you guys are telling us what we're missing, which is great because then we can prioritize this list. And so we're bringing in ways for you to see your own post or see another user's post. We're adding timestamps to the thread list. We're going to simplify the way the thread editor works so that you can do inline medias, something that a lot of people have been reporting as the blockified blocks were a bit problematic for some of the formatting options that you wanted. And so all of these are features and requests that we're getting from you guys from the feedback threads. And so we're really happy to be able to build this platform with you guys by iterating quickly. We're trying to do on Spectrum a weekly cycle and release every 2 weeks. If we can muster it, and so we're hoping that we'll be able to keep this trend going while also incorporating your feedback. So that's on the short-term horizon for Spectrum. We also want to bring thumbnails to the thread list, and of course, secondary thread type. Currently, only classic threads exist, but we want to bring Reddit-style thread to this, where comments can be sorted by upvote score as well. And so that's all coming in the short term on the Spectrum platform. And so on the medium-term horizon, our major focus, and that's based on community feedback, is going to be mobile app support. And so currently Spectrum is mobile ready, it is responsive as a website. There are a few bugs and kinks we gotta adjust, but we really want to bring in a more native experience on mobiles to you guys. And so one of our big ticket items is to bring native support to the different mobile platform. And so we're looking at iOS and Android as our primary targets, and optionally, if things go well, we can also bring that to the Windows platform for a Windows phone. And so this would allow you to have a real native experience on your phone that is performant, fast, and is not just a web page wrapped into a native wrapper. It's actually going to be a native application that you can use and get your notifications from. So use mobile native notifications, native views, a lot more performance. And so we're hoping to, this is a bigger update, but we're hoping in the midterm that this will be our first ticket item to get out from Spectrum. And on the longer horizon, what we're looking at is, of course, voice support. So as we are doing all these features, R&D and work for the voice development is being done at the same time. And so we have a lot of different technical options that we're taking and implementing currently to try to get simple voice chat in, which is going to be like a theme in Spectrum. We're going to try to launch features fast and then iterate on them instead of waiting a long time to launch a feature. We have the chance of having you guys with us so we can launch it faster. So the voice is being done right now, and that's our major feature. Like when we do get voice in, it's going to be a major element for the game, because then you guys will be able to use it as you play Star Citizen, which is already great. Moving on from voice, there are still a few kinks that we need to iron out. One of them is that we really would love to be able to reach a functionality where there is a command channel for you guys and a squadron type channel, so that admirals and captains can stay in the command channel and broadcast to sub channels. This is a major functionality that we think we'll have to do as a second stage, but we intend to try to get there, because I think for a game like Star Citizen, that's going to be a big must. And so that's on the longer horizon, is of course voice and desktop support, which will come with Delta Patcher as well. And so I'm in LA all week this week to discuss in-game integration between platform and game. And so as we're fleshing out these functionalities and the game design around it, this is really the elements that are exciting for us and for you guys, I'm sure, which is what will make Spectrum unique between other platforms, is how it integrates deeply with Star Citizen as a game. This is how we're going to make this different, and this is how we're going to really make it the home of the gameplay. And so we're spending the week planning out how in-game integration is going to work out, and then I'm probably going to follow that with a visit in the UK to nail out the final print detail for that. I'm super excited to be able to work on this platform for you guys, and I hope that you guys will want to follow us as we do more updates for the in-game integration parts. Benoit signing out.
Thanks, Benoit. I really look forward to Spectrum becoming fully integrated with Star Citizen. This will definitely enrich the multiplayer experience by allowing players to communicate with one another in real time as they play.
Yeah, exactly. Community has always been part of the fabric of Star Citizen, and Spectrum has really allowed us to enhance that connection. And like Benoit said, the feedback on the issue council from backers, subscribers, and fans has been immensely helpful to improve the Spectrum platform. So thank you to everyone who has submitted bugs to the issue council.
Up next, we have a special look at the weapon development for Star Marine. While it's easy just to focus on the question of whether it looks cool or not, in reality, there are a lot more factors to consider when building a new weapon, especially since we aim to replicate how weapons look, feel, and sound in the real world.
Yes, the development of each weapon involves close collaboration across multiple departments, so that the technical specs feel seamless to the universe with nothing to detract from a player's gaming experience. So to give you an idea of exactly how complicated the process is, we sat down with the designers, producers, artists, and animators to show you all the things that go into creating a weapon before firing the first shot. Take a look.
It starts with an idea. The answer to a question, really. How can we best defend ourselves?
So when we start a weapon, what we do is first a very, very high-level write-up, which discusses the key beats, the manufacturer, what type of weapon it is. From there, we approve that, and then that goes into the actual kickoff meeting, where we run through that document. We talk about what we're trying to hit as far as those major key beats, and so when the concept is being worked on, it is purely about those things, and we make sure that if everything else falls to the wayside, we hit those three things.
The weapons pipeline is a very traditional content pipeline, so what we create is a piece of content. It doesn't have much There's no gameplay logic that ties back to all the other areas. It's a weapon. It's a fairly contained piece of art with effects and animation, and it's complex in itself.
You know, the Bearing P8 AR, the assault rifle, was kind of the one we chose to be, right, this is going to be the new gold standard. We knew right off the bat, you know, we wanted something quite slick. It shouldn't be too fancy, but, you know, it's going to be in Squadron, so, you know, we wanted to have some interest. It's going to be a mix of alloy and polymers, and that was kind of our initial direction. You know, obviously working off an M16 sort of silhouette, sort of proportions, so that's your sort of starting ground, basically.
After we get our hands on a concept, we tend to compare it to our replicas of guns that we have in the office. We tend to check the buttstock length, the thickness of the gun, the trigger guard, to make sure that a character with a heavy armor can actually fit his fingers into the trigger guard. We check the accessibility of the handguard, if it is not too far away or not too close to the player. Same goes for the mag release and safety. So we check all these, and if needed, we adjust the concept. Afterwards, we create a blockout, which is a very simplified version of the in-game model, which basically consists just of a few blocks of geometry. This is used mainly for pre-visualizations. After the blockout is done, we send it to the animators and riggers, and we start to work on the actual in-game mesh, which is way more advanced than the blockout.
Then tech art can bring up any concerns that they might have, weapon art can bring up any concerns that they might have, audio, so on and so forth. So all the way through the pipeline. So we have representatives for every single department in that kickoff meeting that can ask questions to myself or the designer that has worked on these weapons.
After gathering all the information, we start our own process. First is a weapon pre-visualization setup. Second one is with a final render mesh implementation, and third one is optimization of level of detail. We call it LODs. We create the Maya rig for the animators, and we provide all sort of controls for its mechanism. Then we hand it over to animators.
When you're firing a weapon, if it has moving parts, we have to animate those parts. The main focus for animation is actually getting the reloads working. The reloads in any first-person game are important to how the weapon feels. It's getting the weight of the weapon, the timing. It needs to feel like a realistic reload. And then obviously in Star Citizen, we've got the combined first-person and third-person animations. So you've got the unique challenge of what you see in first-person and third-person is the same thing, but in first-person you need to have a good read on what's happening. So you've got some restrictions where you have to keep the weapon in the view of the camera. If you drop that out to reload, then the player's going to, wonder where's the weapon gone.
And so just putting all these pieces together, just making, just the basics, The grip isn't too big, the finger can go in a neutral rest position and when it's not on the trigger. Branding, materials, does it look good from third person, does it look good from first person?
We create a weapon character definition file which contains 4 data types. First one is a skeleton and plus its physics. Second one is a skin file which contains its deformation parts. And third one is static geometry, which we call as a CGF. Fourth one are a null attachment helpers, which works with our weapon customization as well as certain helpers for the VFX. After this stage, our game skeleton for the weapon is ready. Then we create another internal file, which we call character parameters, where we connect the animation database to its respective skeleton. And then animators can go in and start exporting their animation. Final product as a building block pre-visualization weapon looks something like this inside the engine.
I mean, way back in the day, like when we were doing the first sort of weapons, there were all sorts of things, different sizes, Now we're working far more with templates, basically. So it used to be that the animation department was less involved. So because we were just making cool weapons. Do you know what I mean? We were just we're being artists, and we're like, yeah, this is cool, but really it needed more involvement from all of the parties.
Once Tech Art send us the rig, the first thing we do is we put it onto our animation pose and just check that the pivot point of the weapon sits correctly in the hand. Everything's good, it's shouldered, the first person view and the third person view are looking right. If the weapon has many moving parts, we'll check that all those are set up correctly. Sometimes they aren't, and then we feed back to Tech Art, and then it comes back to us again. This is J36, so it's hand positions are close in. So this is the pose that we give Art to model around. So they'll model this part of the gun so that it fits, but then the left hand, we have to adjust it per weapon. So the PAR, for example, is a longer weapon, so instead of holding it back here, the first thing we'll do is we'll adjust this and we'll get a hand pose that we're happy with. And we get that in engine as early as possible so that we know where the animation's going to have to start from for the reload. So once we're happy with the hand pose, then we can move on to doing the first pass of the reloads. After we've done a few, iterations, tested some timing out and stuff, and once we're happy with that, that's when we move on to implementing it into Mannequin, which is the part of the engine that the game's going to read like the animation from, the fragments and stuff. So code will usually set those up or design, and then animation will go in and fill in the animations that are needed. So you'll have different reloads for stand, crouch, prone, but we always try and make sure that the timing's the same on each, because obviously you don't want a penalty for being in crouch. Whereas in most first-person games, you'd have the same reload across all states, because it's actually just a floating pair of arms, or it's just a fixed body. So we always concentrate just on the stand, forward, reload. After it's in Mannequin, we can get it in engine. That's when the design guys and art and any director that needs to review it can start seeing it, you can play with it. Usually the first iteration's relatively rough because you want to get that in quickly so that people can start feeding back on it as early as possible.
Once art and animation have done their first pass, we put that all into the file and verify it's all working in game. It hasn't changed massively since the original test we did, because quite often if you use one gun and set it up as behaving like another one, it feels very different if it hasn't got the right assets on it. Sort of the visual style and sound and animations of the gun can massively impact the feel of how people perceive it to be working. It's all just very subtle shifts in increasing the rate of fire, but keeping the same recoil values can massively change how something feels, because it just slowly additively stacks. So you change one number a small amount, and after you fired 50 rounds, your gun's 45 degrees pointed further away than where you were before.
So now when we get feedback from animators, we address the feedback to the actual in-game model, and we apply then so-called custom normals, which basically means that all the hard edges are beveled, and in the end it makes the gun look way more beautiful because all the hard edges are nice and smooth and round in it. And after that is done and optimizations on the model are done, we do this thing called UVing. UVing is basically opposite of what making a paper model is. So instead of starting off from a 2D sheet of paper and making it into the model, we start with the model and then unfold it nicely into a 2D sheet for texturing. After this, decals and pump decals are applied, which basically add a small stickers or markings on the gun. And the pump decals really enhance the visuals of the weapon by adding a small details that actually bend the light. There are also unique textures applied to the model, which enhance the look of the weapon as well as functionality. These are called wear map and a dirt map. These are hand painted or photo sourced to ensure the highest quality, and basically they add dirt and wear. However, these can be controlled by code in real time, so we can control the intensity and amount of the dirt and wear dynamically in engine.
Every weapon in the game has a muzzle flash, ballistic weapons and energy weapons. That's sort of the main distinction of the weapons now. It's energy or ballistic. So each weapon has 4 parts, And it doesn't matter if it's a ballistic weapon or an energy weapon. Muzzle flash, projectile, impacts, and the tracer. And the impacts is a huge thing in itself, because we want to do different impact effects per surface. So if you shoot ice, you should be able to see ice fragments coming up. And if you're shooting at metal, yeah, we're talking about sparks. And then dust from shooting cloth, water, and yeah, how will we deal with the different planets? Like we have brown sand, red sand, black sand, and it's just going to be crazy. But that's so cool with this product, this game, because the level of detail that every department wants to add to it, it's just very inspiring.
You know, once a weapon has been built and, you know, maybe it's got, you know, it gets to audio, you know, normally animations are done, gets to audio, and audio are sort of putting their thinking on it. Generally they've been, you know, it's been, you know, spot on. It's kind of like a linear pipeline. It hasn't come back and influenced the design, but, you know, we do have weapons that are coming up where the choices that they'll make will definitely influence the sort of feel of the weapon and the weight of the weapon.
You know, a certain weapon might sound different from a first-person perspective to give you a kind of more subjective, a deeper subjective experience of firing that weapon. And then it sounds different again from a third person. So that if you hear your weapon being fired by an enemy down the hall or whatever, it'll be different from, you know, to try and reflect the fact that when you fire a weapon yourself, probably in real life, we don't get to do that much in the UK, thankfully, you know, you'll get that kick that you wouldn't necessarily have the audio for. In the old days, you would have like one or two sound effects for guns, let's say. We've got layers and multiple layers, and then in those layers are multiple grains. It's all essentially like, yeah, almost granular resynthesis, really. It's quite deep, it's quite painstaking, and it has its own technical challenges. If you were, say, lining all that stuff up in Reaper, then all the transients, the initial pop, you could line them up manually, and that all works fine. If you're trying to randomize these things, so these different layers are working in tandem, almost like an orchestra, you know, you need to try to make sure they all line up as well, otherwise you get this smearing effect, and it kind of muddies the water, if you like, the audio where guns are concerned. So trying to work out exactly how you deconstruct and reconstruct stuff is a large part of what we're still doing. We're still trying to improve that process. It's similar to music in a way. Music does a similar thing. That's based more on logic. This is more based on where you are. And also stuff, like I said, like first person, whether it's you shooting or somebody else. A lot of these things vary at runtime. And the idea is hopefully you won't really notice it too much, you know. That's why I think it's slightly taken for granted, the audio thing, because when it works, it just seems natural, and that's what we're aiming for. If you haven't fired a gun for a while, and you bring it up and you fire it again, that initial punch that you get from it will be louder than if, like, 2 seconds from that point, you fire it again. So little dynamic mix systems that work, you know, to try and make it pop through that bit more. That's what game sound designers do. I think that's why it's an interesting challenge compared to movie sound design. Is that we're trying to come up with systems, and we still have that authorship, we still sound design, we still put, you know, we still do that creative stuff, but it's married to this technical challenge, which makes it so much more, to me, so much more interesting than movie sound design.
That's pretty much the process that we take, and then yes, that's when we sort of go right. Or I think I go right, I think I'm done, and then it, you know, passes on to the next part of the pipeline. Because it's not just visuals, right? It's the whole holistic thing. It's VFX, it's the audio, really giving the punch of that weapon. You know, fans expect a certain level of quality, and that all feeds into it. You know, everything works as it should, basically.
It started with an idea. Now it's yours to fire.
Thanks everybody for that in-depth presentation. It's amazing how much work goes into these weapons. Everything from the stock lengths to the trigger guard are accurately accounted for before the development process reaches animation. Every part of the creation is so intricate, down to the sound effects layering. Yet, when you use these weapons in-game, battling it out in Echo 11, you take it all for granted.
No, not all of us take it all for granted, but it is a real credit to the entire team that they're able to take on the innumerable challenges which need to be considered when creating a weapon. Whether the player is in first or third person, or how that changes the look and sound, which type of ammunition should be used, and what kind of damage it inflicts on a target. The subtle shifts in different rates can completely change the weapon experience, what the decals say about the weapon's history and the lore of the company that manufactured it.
There you go. That's it for this episode of ATV. We'd like to thank all of our subscribers for giving us this level of community content.
Yes, and as always, to our backers who have helped us on this journey, you're the ones taking this game to the next level, so we can't thank you enough.
We'd also like to invite all of you to join us tomorrow at 12 Pacific for Star Citizen Happy Hour. Sean Tracy, Steve Bender, Eric Davis, and Ben Lesnick will hold a roundtable interview that you won't want to miss.
Yep, that's quite a lineup. It's probably going to be pretty cool. So that's it for this week's show. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you
around the verse.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.